Southampton, NY. Phil Mickelson had a birthday to forget Saturday at the US Open. In one of his most bizarre moments in a career full of them, Mickelson intentionally hit a moving ball on the 13th hole to prevent it from racing off the front of the green. He was docked 2 shots under Rule 14-5 and recorded a 10 on the hole, and then defiantly stated afterward that he knew the rules and decided that he'd rather take the penalty than play ping-pong around the severely undulating green at Shinnecock Hills. "At that time, I just didn't feel like going back and forth and hitting the same shot over," he said after shooting a third-round 81, which matched his career worst score at the US Open. "I took the 2-shot penalty and moved on. It's my understanding of the rules. I've had multiple times where I've wanted to do that. I just finally did." On his 48th birthday, Mickelson was already 4 over par for the day when he found trouble on the 366-yard 13th, which has played as one of the most difficult holes at Shinnecock this week. After misfiring long with his approach, his pitch shot carried over the green, then he chipped past the flag again. When his 15-footer for bogey raced past the cup, and appeared on the verge of racing off the front of the green, Mickelson jogged to catch up with his ball, then swatted it back toward the hole. A remarkable sequence on hole 13, where Phil Mickelson was assessed a 2-stroke penalty for hitting a moving ball and ended up making a 10 on the hole. pic.twitter.com/KX6YAYADER, US Open, USGA, at US Open Golf, June 16, 2018, "No question, it was going to go down in the same spot behind the bunker," he said. "I wasn't going to have a shot." His playing partner, Andrew "Beef" Johnston, stared at Mickelson in disbelief. "I said, that's one of the strangest things I've ever seen, and then just started laughing," Johnston said. "I think it's just a moment of madness." Mickelson walked off the green with an 8, then was told by a rules official that he'd be assessed a 2-shot penalty for playing a moving ball. He said afterward that he was just using the rules to his advantage. US Open, scores, live blog, full coverage. "In that situation, I was just going back and forth," he said. "I would gladly take the 2 shots over continuing that display." But social media erupted at what was perceived as a serious breach of etiquette by Mickelson, one of the most beloved players in the game. John Bodenheimer, the USGA's senior managing director of championships and governance, said that the Rules Committee decided that Rule 1-2 did not apply, because Phil didn't purposely deflect or stop the ball, such as stopping a ball from going out of bounds, and thus spared Mickelson from disqualification. "He didn't deflect it or stop it," Bodenheimer said. "He played a moving ball. Made a stroke at a moving ball, which is explicitly covered under 14-5. Mickelson said that disrespecting the game wasn't his intent, that he didn't think the move would damage his reputation, and that any fans or players who were offended by his actions needed to toughen up. "If somebody is offended by that, I apologize to them, but toughen up," he said, "because this is not meant that way. I just wanted to get on to the next hole, and I didn't see that happening at the time. I'd gladly take my 2 strokes and move on." Mickelson said that he's wanted to accept this penalty on other occasions in his career, including some years on the 15th hole at the Masters, when his ball would run off into the creek, but that with this particular hole location Saturday, I could still be out there, potentially. "So was the pin on 13 fair? Everybody has to play it," he said. "I was playing it worse than most, and I wanted to get to the next hole eventually, which I did." Mickelson's stunning smack was reminiscent of John Daly's outburst during the 1999 US Open at Pinehurst. After the same 2-shot penalty, he made an 11 on the hole and claimed afterward that his penalty was in protest against the USGA for setting so many dicey hole locations. But with the USGA on the verge of losing Shinnecock again, because of unplayable conditions in the 3rd round, Mickelson didn't rail against the setup. Instead, he described it as "certainly a lot harder today," and added that he'll continue to relish the challenge of playing the US Open even if sometimes it gets a bit goofy. The incident didn't seem to dim Mickelson's enthusiasm. As he headed toward the scoring cabin, he offered wry smiles, high-fived the fans lining the barricades and gave a few thumbs up. He remained in scoring for nearly a half hour. He said he was refueling after a long day on the course, before facing dozens of reporters and cameramen. When Mickelson was done explaining one of the most bizarre decisions of his legendary career, he scribbled autographs, made small talk with fans and nodded along to the music. The crowd was singing, "Happy Birthday." Article tags, 2018 U.S. Open, Phil Mickelson. Southampton, NY. High winds and dry conditions have threatened to make Shinnecock Hills unplayable for a second consecutive U.S. Open, if early reaction on Saturday is any indication. Despite rain on Friday that softened the layout, increasingly high scores on Day 3 have led to concerns that the Long Island layout has been pushed too close to, or over, the edge. "They've lost the golf course," Zach Johnson told Sky Sports. "When you have a championship that comes down to sheer luck, that's not right." Johnson shot a 72 on Saturday and was 8 over par. U.S. Open, scores, live blog, full coverage. In 2004, the USGA scrambled during the final round after the day's first group, which included Kevin Stadler and J.J. Henry, combined to play the 7th hole in a dozen strokes. Officials began watering greens after that, and association executive director Mike Davis called the setup a double bogey. Brendan Steele, who finished after Johnson, echoed his concerns. Asked if the course was getting too close to the edge, Steele responded, "Yes. Once you watch the leaders play the back nine, you won't have to ask any questions. Maybe they got more wind than they thought they'd get," he added. "The course was fair the first 2 days. Today I thought it was getting sketchy." The early round 3 scoring average was 74.171, which was less than it was on day 1, 76.474, when winds whipped to 30 miles per hour, but some greens seemed to be a particular concern, like the 13th hole, which was the site of a bizarre ruling when Phil Mickelson hit a putt while his golf ball was still moving. Mickelson was given a 2-stroke penalty and made a 10 on the hole. Article tags, 2018 U.S. Open, Zach Johnson, Shinnecock Hills. Phil Mickelson's controversial actions on the 13th green in the third round of the 118th U.S. Open sent social media ablaze. Here are some reactions from professional golfers. "So he didn't purposely stop the ball for his benefit? Okay. Though running after the ball after he saw he was going to run 50 yards off the green was just a veteran move to keep his hamstrings warm." Bodu, at Bodu83, June 16, 2018. USGA rule change. Rule 1 to 2-stroke play. If admitting to completely violating this rule on national TV, it's deemed you are disqualified. Exception to the rule. It's your birthday, Bodu, at Bodu83, June 16, 2018. Beef, grinning, on Phil, a moment of madness. Alan Bastable, at Alan_Bastable, June 16, 2018. Che Bruto e Sempiosi da non squalificare Phil Mickelson dopo quello che è successo alla 13, il golf e diverso da altri sporti secondo me andava squalificato. Secondly, if he had thought through it, isn't that grounds for DQ? Tab Writings, at Tabs Golf, June 16, 2018. Agree with this serious cop-out from the USGA. https://t.co/heek5 is, Eddie Pepperell, at Pepperell Eddie, June 16, 2018. I laugh at how outraged Twitter is getting with Phil and his penalty. Get over it, people. Parker McLaughlin, at Parker McLaughlin, June 16, 2018. Does this not show intent? Am I high? I am not. In what universe is this not an admittance of gaining a significant advantage by stopping the ball from possibly, likely, rolling off the green, resulting in a potentially higher score? I'm honestly asking. https://t.co/5e8 McGrew, Christina Kim, at the Christina Kim, June 16, 2018. Article tags, 2018 U.S. Open, Phil Mickelson. Southampton, NY. Frustrated Phil Mickelson is having a birthday to forget at the U.S. On his 48th birthday Saturday, Mickelson was already 4 over par for the day when he had a bizarre incident on the 13th tee. Facing a 12-footer for bogey, his ball raced past the cup. As his ball started to ride the slope at the front of the green, Mickelson jogged to catch up with the moving ball and smacked it back toward the cup. A remarkable sequence on hole 13, where Phil Mickelson was assessed a 2-stroke penalty for hitting a moving ball and ended up making a 10 on the hole. pic.twitter.com/kx6yager, US Open, USGA, at US Open Golf, June 16, 2018 he marked that ball and holed the putt for triple. He was assessed a 2-shot penalty for hitting a moving ball, turning his quadruple bogey 8 into a 10. During play of the 13th hole, Phil Mickelson made a stroke on the putting green at the time his ball was moving. As a result, he incurred a 2-stroke penalty for a breach of Rule 14-5. His score for the hole was 10, USGA PR, at USGA_PR, June 16, 2018 he left the green with a wry smile. "That's the most out of character I've ever seen Phil Mickelson," Paul Azinger said on the Fox broadcast. He just snapped. Still searching for his first U.S. Open victory, Mickelson made the cut after rounds of 77 to 69, Southampton, NY. Even after missing the cut by 10 shots, 22-year-old Ryan Lumsden got another crack at Shinnecock Hills. Lumsden was one of 20 amateurs to qualify for the U.S. Open, and of that group 17 failed to make the cut at 8 over 148. Among them was Lumsden, an Englishman who just completed his junior season at Northwestern. He struggled in the blustery conditions of the opening round and finished near the bottom of the standings after rounds of 82 to 76. Lumsden didn't expect to return this weekend after completing his second round early Friday afternoon, but with 67 players making the cut, the USGA opted to have a marker play alongside New Zealand's Tim Wilkinson in the first group of the day. As a result, Lumsden got a phone call around 8 p.m. Friday night asking if he'd like the spot. The guys called up and said, "Would you like to play?" Lumsden said, "It took maybe half a second to think, and that was it. It was a very easy decision." U.S. Open scores live blog full coverage. The USGA did not offer an official explanation for why Lumsden was chosen to fill the role of marker. It's a position that gains attention every year at the Masters, where Augusta National member Jeff Knox regularly gets the nod in the event an odd number of players make the cut and oftentimes keeps pace with the game's best on this scorecard, albeit in an unofficial capacity. Lumsden qualified for this week's field in impressive fashion, taking on a sectional field in Columbus, Ohio that was loaded with PGA Tour pros the day after the Memorial Tournament concluded. He was the only amateur among the 15 players who qualified, shooting rounds of 68 to 70 to make it on the number. Taking advantage of what he described as an extra bonus, Lumsden played his best golf of the week alongside Wilkinson, with whom he had also played a practice round. While he didn't keep an official score, Lumsden estimated that he shot 1 or 2 over. Saturday despite a double bogey on the 18th hole. Wilkinson shot 78. Lumsden doesn't expect to be asked to play again in the final round, but even one more trip around Shinnecock made a memorable week all the more special. "Best week I've had, in probably, my life, to be honest. It was brilliant," Lumsden said. "Got to play with some amazing people, golfers and guys just in general. Learned a lot about my game. Learned what I need to do to get better if I want to take the next step in professional golf. We've got some stuff to work on." Article tags 2018 U.S. Open, Ryan Lumsden, Tim Wilkinson.